Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching the Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences.
Get on with it.
So in an effort to create some alternate content on the channel, you'll see some new stuff pop up, which hopefully will stick around as actual series. But I noticed there's a few different trends going on in content creation at the moment, and you know what? Sometimes you gotta try some of these ideas out to see if they stick. But this is a best of the month series, where basically I talk about new games I've played in the last month and just give some thoughts about how those games went. But if I haven't played enough new games, I'll talk about some older games that I've played again, and you know, we'll chop and change as things go by, but this is just meant to be a quick video series. So looking at April, and yes, I know we're at the end of May, but I had to start this series somewhere. Obviously we'll do a much sooner video for best of May when we get to the June period, after the expo of course. I figured, here we go, here's a few games that I can mention, and not just the two here, I've got one or two others as well. So first up, Super Skill Pinball Forcade. I'm going to do a top 10 roll and writes at some point in the future, but I need to play more roll and writes because at the time I came up with the idea, I didn't actually have 10 roll and write, flip and write style games that I actually wanted to give into a top 10. You know, it's not a genre I tend to go for. I find that they lack any kind of interaction with other players, they get a little bit boring, a little bit repetitive, and you know, there's a few I put my stock behind. But to do a top 10, that was tricky. And I've bought a couple recently to try it out. Well, this is one of them, Super Skill Pinball. This is the Forcade one. I know there's been more versions with different tables, but basically it's pinball. You roll dice, you launch the balls, and the dice correspond to bits in the pinball table that you can hit, but as you gain points for each one, the balls drop down, you've got to go on the flippers, flip it back up, much like a normal pinball table, but you're crossing off the numbers and scoring points, and eventually you're going to run out of ability to keep the ball in play, it's going to go down, and you've got 3 lives before you rack up a big high score. Now, I don't like to compare the high score with other people, because chances are they'll do a lot better than me at this. But theme-wise, this is definitely one of the most thematic roll and writes I've seen. I mean, it really does replicate pinball really well. I love the way the tables look, nice and colourful. Some are better than others. I mean, the basic table is a little bit boring, but then later on you get these cool little mini games and stuff with like Dance Fever and Cyber Hack and that. But, you know, it's just a cool little system. Now, the problem I have with it is that it's a bit long. It says 30 minutes on the box. Yeah, that's pushing it. This game can easily take you 45 minutes to an hour to finish your table, and this is as a solo game. There's no reason to play this with other players because there's no interaction whatsoever, so this is purely for solo. And I wish it was a little bit shorter. That length is a bit of a put-off, but I do really enjoy what I'm doing, so I'm kind of willing to forego that. But it needs more players. I haven't tried all the tables out. I've tried, was it Carnival, tried Cyber Hack, tried Dance Fever. I don't think I've tried Dragon Slayer yet. Become a Wizard. I need to try that one out next. But I like this. This is a cool little system. And I like the fact that they've actually paid attention to the theme when doing this. But we'll see if this can make the top 10 list, or whether it's one that I'll have to eventually get rid of, or maybe, by shock horror, it'll be a roll and write that I keep. But yeah, I've put this one off for a while, and I'm glad I'm finally giving it a try. So, next up, I have played the Grand Carnival. Now, this is another one that I've heard people talk about, particularly Z Garcia, and they've talked about it in high regard, but then I've also heard some opinions who hate this game, like they really don't like it. It's like, interesting, I better jump into this and see. Plus, I played that other theme park game, what was it, I forgot what it was called, the other theme park game. I'm going to have to put it up on the screen. I did a review of it recently, but that kind of says everything about that game. I can't even remember the title of it, so why exactly would I recommend that game? So I thought, let's try this one. And plus, I love this cartoony artwork that looks a bit like the old 1920s, 30s cartoons, Cuphead for something a bit more recent. The Grand Carnival is essentially a tile laying game, and again, there's no storage for this, so everything's got to be in bags or tiles, but you basically have a board where you are placing these tiles on as basically construction sites. They've got green squares or hammers. The green squares are where your people who visit your park can go, but the construction butts are where you have to put these tiles, which basically represent polyomino theme park rides. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. You've got some objectives that you can go for, and there's action selection you do. But the way the action selection works is that you've got numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, I think up to 5. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And depending what action you do, the strength of the action is based on the person that you use. but you've only can use each of them once. So in order to take tiles from a row, depending on how strong your action is, you might only be able to take from the first couple or one further away. But then you've also got an action to move people around your park, and there's points for visiting your rides as well as getting to the tent at the end. Well, do I only move it one space or can I move it 5? You know, it's a cool little idea like that. And the rules to this are very simple. It's definitely an efficiency machine though. I mean, it is very easy to sort of shoot yourself in the foot with this one and get yourself, you know, rub yourself into a corner. But the rules are straightforward, and even though the main aesthetic that's pleasing is this cartoony stuff, the rest of it is a little bit on the bland side, it does keep to about a 60-minute timer as it says on the box, does well for 1 to 4 players, although the solo mode is, it's alright, but it's not particularly great. This is one that I prefer to play with 3 or 4 players to have that really strong tension for trying to get stuff before other players can. And everybody is usually doing different paths to victory because there's multiple ways to score points. This is interesting for now. I've only played it a couple of times and so far it's gone down well, but I need to see if it's going to stand the test of time because it's not one I'll play solo. But so far it's intriguing. I mean, I like the efficiency puzzle that's in this. I like the fact that I can try something different each time, and it's just quite, it's a cool puzzle, not just for what persons you're going to use to do the actions, but also just trying to space out the polyominoes on your board because you're pretty restricted in terms of space, particularly with the tiles you get. So this one is definitely one that, as much as the rules are simple to appeal to a casual player, casual players might find that they rub themselves into a corner too easily and that could put them off. So we'll have to see, but this one has intrigued me and I'm definitely up for trying it some more. Alright, another one that I've played, finally, oh my god, So Clover. Can you believe it's only taken until April 23 for me to actually play this wretched game? I have got just one on the shelf down there, there we go. And this is a fantastic party game, okay? Love it. I'm jealous I didn't even think of the idea myself and publish it because it's such a simple concept and yet it just works. So Clover is kind of like the gamer sequel to it, as I call it. Basically, it's a co-op game, much like the Just one. Everybody's got this kind of like Clover pad thing, and they have 4 cards that they put in it, and they've all got different nouns around the edge, different names of things, objects and stuff. And it could even be country names, it could be all sorts. But the idea is that they, at random, you put the cards in your Clover, and then with the spaces around the edge, you have to write a word that links the stuff that's there. So if I've got a bird and, I don't know, if I've got bird and America, say, as 2 of my words, I could put eagle as the word that connects the 2. It's a bird and it's the emblem, of America. So, those 2 fit. But those words have got to go around the whole Clover, and so bird might work with America, but then you've also got to find out how bird works with, how this other name works with another thing. And so you're constantly, before the game starts, you're like, oh, how on earth am I going to link these? I've got to come up with something that the others will get. Once that's done, you flip them over one at a time and everybody discusses, well, I reckon that has to go there because that links with that and this one's there. But how on earth does bird link with hammer? That's not going to work. And it's just a cool little discussion puzzle. But while you're the one who's put the thing down, you're just sitting there in silence like, oh no, don't do that. So you can't give anything away. It can drag on a little bit in that respect for that player if they are taking forever to make a decision, but you essentially try and get them in the right place, and the quicker you do it, the more points you get, and it's just basically a harmless little co-op. It is good fun though. I mean, it is really hard to come up with those links. You feel good when you do really good links, but then even just figuring out the other ones, you're like, I still reckon it's that. I don't agree with you. And it engages cooperative nature, it engages discussion with the players. It's nice and simple. But it is a step above just one. The complexity of it with trying to come up with those links is a bit like code names. It's hard to come up with clues in code names. It can be quite hard sometimes to come up with stuff in So Clover as well, compared to something like Just One, where it's pretty easy to write down a word, but you obviously have to not duplicate with other players. This doesn't have that whole duplication factor, it's just trying to link the stuff on your Clover. But again, super simple idea. It's basically Just One the sequel. You want something that's a little bit more gamery, like maybe you're playing Just One with brand new players more often and you want something that, gamers will happily play as a filler, then So Clover seems like a pretty good bet. I really enjoyed it. I'm tempted to get myself a copy, but frankly it's at every game cafe, so I don't know if I need to get a copy. But it's super cheap, less than £15. It's like barely 12 quid, 10 quid for this game. So I'm tempted just to get it to fill a slot in the collection because it is a pretty solid party game, and I'm glad I finally got it played. And finally, I want to talk about Stationfall. Stationfall is this huge Kickstarter that has recently fulfilled, and it's finally arrived. I've played it at one of our Shake, Battle and Roll conventions, and it got played a lot. People had finally got a copy of this game, and everybody was bringing it and teaching it and stuff. It was one of the most played games there. It's this huge kind of wacky alien-esque game where you're all on a space station that's plummeting to Earth. Everybody's got different roles that they are secretly, but there's a bunch of characters on the ship, anything from a hyper-intelligent lab rat to a chimpanzee to an enforcer, a general, a saboteur, an android that loves to heal people all the time. You've got all sorts of weird and wacky characters, particularly when you get into the complex stuff like gun drones and stuff, and a virus even. But the idea is that each of you has a secret role, and you use influence this in order to get characters to move around the ship, activate stations, turn off cameras, jettison escape pods and stuff, and you base each character scores in a different fashion. So if you're secretly the enforcer, you might have to get certain people to not get off the ship. But if you're the chimpanzee, you might just have to grab certain objects from the ship and get away because you're just a kleptomaniac effectively. And so you have to stop people figuring out who you are because they'll try and openly sabotage you, but you obviously have to try and meet those goals. But because all these characters are controlled by everyone potentially, if they just influence them or bribe them, it can lead to some chaos factor where somebody goes where you don't want them to, or somebody kills your guy when they're not meant to. And there's a couple of other weird wacky things like releasing Project X, which is this random thing at the start of the game that could be a carnivorous alien beast.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
It could be a wormhole. It could be a gun drone, like mini gun drones that go around and kill everyone. It's like there's a lot of cool wacky stuff, and that's the thing with this game. You can't play it with a serious take because it's very chaotic. It can be quite random, can be quite swingy, and it is a long game. It's not a short game. I mean, you're playing this for a good couple of hours easily before it's done. Longer if you play it online, but you are still talking a good couple of hours at least. And there's not that many turns in the game, but each one you're like, what on earth am I supposed to do with these two actions? That doesn't seem like I can do a lot. And sometimes you might get into a position where you just can't really physically win. But I've had a few good clawbacks in my time where I've won by the skin of my teeth, or at least got to a good respectable second place when I thought I'd lost the game. But this one just generates a lot of laughs. You gotta play it with tongue-in-cheek in the nature because everything is kind of there as a parody. There's a lot of really funny things in there. I like the fact that the one botanist has basically got something like the plant from the Little Shop of Horrors effectively, and she scores points if you can get the plant to devour various people on the ship. That's just really cool. But then you've also got this android doctor who constantly gets points if it heals things. But then to heal people who have been downed, basically, you can either go find people who have been downed by other players, or you as the android can just go down them yourself. Just grab a wrench and just go boonk, heal, boomf, heal. It's kind of like the psychopathic droid that wants to heal you, but if it can't find anyone to heal, it will make someone to heal. It's that cool thing. So it's a cool game. It's a bit big. The board is huge, and the teach is a chore. I mean, man, you've got to teach a lot of stuff ahead of time with this. This is not a game that you can just jump in and see how it goes. You need to know how everything works, and for new players, it is a beast to teach, which is a good thing. I don't own the game, my friend does, and I would rather play this game without new players. Hence, this is not one I'll ever own. But it's a good amount of fun. Good for a convention night or a long game night if you just want to chuck it out. But yeah, I was impressed with this one. I mean, whereas something like Nemesis is more serious and, more atmospheric and definitely represents the Alien movie better, this one just represents, I don't know, this one kind of feels like a cross between something like Galaxy Quest and I don't know, any 80s B-movie space film or something. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's in space, there's alien stuff, there's robot stuff, there's all sorts of sci-fi bits going on, and there's tongue-in-cheek references to movies and stuff. But it's not serious. You're meant to have a giggle with it. And it is good fun. Got played to death at that convention, and yeah, I'll happily play it again. It's just not one that I would want to own because as much as it is fun, it's not overly practical. So there you go, there's some highlights from the new games, to me anyway, that I've played in April 23. Hopefully you like this series, and if you do, I'll be happy to keep doing these each month as time goes on alongside all the other content that I do. So that's it from me on this video. If you like what you see, please remember to thumb it up on YouTube and get those likes, but also comment below about any of the games I've discussed. What are your thoughts, good and bad, about anything I've discussed? I'd like to read it and respond if I can. Until next time, you can check out more content on the show, including possibly, depending which order I release this, the other alternate content I'm doing, which is where I rate my shelves in my collection and talk about whether I want to keep or cull the games, but also the recent review I did for Revive, a big detailed review of the hyped up Euro game. Did it deserve all the hype? You'll have to watch the video to find out. So take care, and remember, regardless of how your experiences went in April, there were still only games. Bye for now.